Welcome to Between the Lines. This is Alan Beauchamp. It's the 225 second show. The year we're going to talk about vouchers today. Now this show is airing on February the, I'd have to add up the numbers, but I think it's in a couple of days. It'll be on February the 6th, maybe. Is that correct, guys? So February the 6th. So we're a few days ahead of you, but we want to talk about vouchers. We just got through in the legislature. 20 to 13 vouchers were approved in the state Senate, led by a reversal of the Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally, who voted for vouchers. I think in the past he has been on the other side of that issue. But whether it's right or wrong, I'm not here to judge that. I'm just here to report the news on that part. But they had a lot of support. I think Ken Yeager, Randy McNally, a lot of these Tennessee people voted for the vouchers. So we'll see what the public school lobby and everybody else has to do about that. But I don't know. We don't know if it's actually a good thing or a bad thing yet and how it impacts the public schools. In the House, it was closer. 53-45 and 1 no vote, P&B. So I guess what we have there is, and my understanding from talking to national people, is one guy hit the wrong button. That's what happens when you're new, I guess. Somebody hit the wrong button, or it would have been even closer, 52-46. So we're talking with State Representative Rick Scarbrough today to talk about what we can expect, maybe how it will impact the schools. We don't have all the details, but we have a lot of them, and we're going to open up. Welcome, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you. 3 weeks on the job, huh?
That's right. That's right.
That's it, 3 weeks on the job. The vouchers passed. Do they go into effect this next fall?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think so. I think so. I don't think they can get anything done this spring.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it'll be for this year, right? But they're not delaying it till the fall of 26. No. They're going to wait. Fall of 25. Okay. So the fall of 25 will be there. How much does each student get if they want to go to a private school? Let's take a legitimate private school like Christian Academy or St. Mary's, not some of the smaller ones that will be popping up everywhere, but some of the other ones. They're going to be approved by the state. Will there be an approval process?
Yeah, they have to file an application. It's not like they're not going to go in and try to enroll and go right in. There'll be an application process, and I don't know how that's going to shake out and how they're going to come up with it.
But there will be some regulatory, some oversight.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The Department of Education will be involved. Okay, absolutely.
Department of Education will see people. Best we know, these checks will go from, if they're approved, these checks, which we think is about $7,000.
$7,050.
And 50 some change over $7,000 will go to that new school for that education. And that will be, the way we understand it today, that will be sent from the public school that you're zoned for or whatever. It's like if you live here in Oak Ridge, you go Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge would send that $7,000 over, or some financial, maybe the controller, the budget, whatever. That money would be shifted somehow in the approval. It was quite a lot of lobbying going on, wasn't there?
There was. It's been busy. I mean, quite honestly, it happened a lot during campaign season, and it got really quiet.
Yeah.
And then it was quiet when we first started getting down there.
Yeah.
But it sure picked up pretty quickly.
Up this week, right.
It picked up when the governor decided to make a call to special session. It picked up.
I think it's interesting. Had you had a chance to talk to Randy McNally? He's in the opposite building, but any ideas why he switched?
No, and I've got to be honest with you, I didn't really lobby anybody.
No, you've been pretty
It was pretty. I tell you, one thing that was interesting, a lot of the veteran folks down there, I've got a lot of great advice since I've been there. And one guy
when you say veteran, you don't mean Army, you mean been there a long time.
There you go.
Okay.
Been there for a few years. Right. One fella told me, he said, you got to stay humble. He said, your vote means no more than the next person.
That's right.
And so everybody had their reasons.
Until it's 49-49, then the vote means a lot.
Well, everybody had their reasons, I would imagine, for how they voted, and not criticizing, not being critical. Just wanted to make sure I respond. This is the thing I will also say this, Alan, is when you say lobby, our community,
or advocate.
I knew what you meant, but our community really became engaged the last few weeks for sure. A couple weeks letting me know where they stood. A lot of phone calls, a lot of
signs in yards.
a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, and really proud of our community for stepping up, letting us know where they were.
And my wife, county commission, you know her well, and she's over there with Tyler and everybody, and she was a very strong advocate for public schools and thought that the voucher thing was not needed, partly because the bill, in her opinion, was fiscally irresponsible. And I think other conservative people don't realize this wasn't a Republican-Democratic vote. There's only 25 Democrats. You got to get 25 Republicans to block anything. But the issue here is that the money being spent, the money being sent to public schools, in a lot of people's opinion, you know, the leaders of this movement from the governor down bought this bill. They made deals. They bought this bill. They got votes from people. They said, look, we do this. I'm not saying any specific thing. I'm just saying, or any allegation. I'm just saying, look, this is good for Tennessee. We'll do this. You've got to get on board. And I think part of that was just a lot of pressure from that side as well as from the public side. In our town, in Oak Ridge and Clinton, it was strongly public school problem. And I hate to label things, and I think the governor gets an unfair rap on that too. It isn't just you're against public schools, you're not for school choice. I think that's not fair. I think what it boils down to is this have a positive impact or a negative impact. And I think the impact that this lobby has had, I think the amount of damage it does to public schools is exaggerated, and I think the amount of benefit, I guess, which I'm trying to find a better word than that, for the other kids are school choice. It's a nice, positive name. And you know me, I've been in campaigns over this stuff and other things, and I think that we really don't know what impact it's going to have. That's my opinion. I just think, what will you be looking for in the first year?
I think we're going to look at the numbers. I think enrollment figures will be important for public schools initially. Proponents of the bill feel like they've made accommodations to remedy those concerns of public school.
Yeah, so, I've heard they're going to keep a base funding level for some of them.
Yeah, the understanding of the bill is whatever the floor is where the floor is going to stay.
The floor is what they're funded at this current time.
The current floor is your floor, mm-hmm. And then if the system experiences a disenrollment, the state steps in and fills the gap of that from that floor. And so, let's say, for example, a system.
So there's not going to be this rush to raise property taxes and have to fight all that stuff on a local level. They're not going to see a decrease in funding, at least for a year or two.
The proponents felt like they took care of that. They felt like that. And how local schools fund their programs may be different, but what from the state's perspective and the way the bill is structured is whatever your current floor is the lowest it's going to be. If in disenrollment you lose some figures, it's still going to maintain the same floor you currently have. At the same time, if you have a excess enrollment, let's say we have a population increase and you bump up 50 people, well, that you're going to get your floor now becomes higher because you increase that 7,050 per child increases your floor. And again, the proponents, the supporters of the bill felt like the bill met some needs that those folks had to make them more comfortable. We won't know, though. I mean, we're going to have to watch. I mean, you just have to watch and see. Do
you feel like in our county, we have one premier private school, not taking anything away from the others, but St. Mary's is a premier private school, 200 to 250 kids. I think on President Obama's watch, they were voted one of the best 50 schools in America, wow. Blue Ribbon School, whatever. So they have it, and they get along with Oak Ridge schools great. Sure. I mean, they have reciprocal programs. They're a high-quality program. I'm not sure everybody opts in. Are there people that won't?
It truly is going to be a decision that the family's going to have to make. We've got some great schools here in our county, and I even reached out to St. Mary's. I wanted to know what the impact was going to be because if they don't have any openings, then obviously they're not going to take any more. So you need to see where they were. I will say this is from a lobbying perspective or trying to from my position. Once, I told leadership, I explained to leadership, whether it be Speaker Sexton, the governor, or Lieutenant Governor McNally, I told them where we were, and I said, look, I feel like our district, is not for the bill. I'm going to take a no vote. And to their credit, there was no pressure from them to try to swing me back over or try to get, if you think about it, the speaker, he grew up here, right?
Yeah, he played basketball.
He's familiar with Oak Ridge schools, and so
that's right.
I can't say enough about. They did not give me. I had no pressure from anybody.
Yeah, and I kind of got the feeling that any advocacy or attention given to individual reps was on a positive side, not a negative side. Look, if we do this, we can do this. Explain.
Yeah.
I didn't hear many. You know, I hear a lot.
Yep.
I didn't hear many stories about negative pressures, except for Raper in Bradley County put out a thing that he was being pressured. And so I don't know what that means. I mean, that's part of the business.
Yeah.
Don't sign up if you can't be pressured.
Yeah,
but he was getting pressured. So.
Yeah, I just felt like that
It's a big deal.
As a matter of fact, I'm a new rep, so we had orientation back in November, and they told us from the get-go, vote your district, right?
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah,
Vote your district,
the ones that hired you.
yeah, and that's
I mean, that's how it works.
Yeah, and that's where I was. No one in Nashville voted for me, by the way. So, I mean, so I want to take care of who sent me down there.
Well, I think technically maybe, I don't know, that's another story. Maybe in the postgraduate studies there, you got a few votes statewide on the SEC. I just feel like we'll take a break and come back, but I think that the public schools are seen as an institution, like, I don't know, the same way we look at the Lincoln Memorial or everything.
Foundational.
Yeah, foundational, and they're just part of our overall culture. It's a part of being in every school. And we'll talk about the history of public schools in a second, because they weren't always that way.
Yeah.
It came in the last 150 years, and that's where it's at. Brad, take us to a break.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Feeling overwhelmed with your business finances? At P&L Business Services, we handle all your bookkeeping, payroll, and tax needs. From federal tax returns to QuickBooks training, we've got you covered. With over 25 years of experience, we provide customized packages to fit your business. Focus on what you love most, building your business. Let us take care of the rest. Call 865-294-4792. P&L Business Services, empowering you to grow your business.
Prescription drug misuse is a prevalent and potentially fatal problem. When people do not properly monitor, store, and dispose their medications, it can create an opportunity for misuse. Count it. Make it a goal to count your pills once every 2 weeks. Lock it. Secure your medications at home. Drop it. Drop off unused or expired medications for proper disposal at any police department in Anderson County. For more info, visit asapofanderson.org. Brought to you by ASAP of Anderson. Prevention works.
Over 14,000 neighbors live in fear of becoming sick or injured and having to make a choice between putting food on the table or seeking medical care. The free medical clinic tries to take that fear away.
What do we help them with? We help them with diabetes, hypertension, any kind of medical need that they need that's necessary. And being in a community with the African American community lets them know that we're here.
Fan Gear Barn is Oak Ridge's source for new and vintage sports fan gear from around the world of sports. Find your favorite team gear at Fan Gear Barn, located at 977 Oak Ridge Turnpike, across from the hospital. Open 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6 days a week. Closed on Sundays.
Welcome back to Between the Lines. We are talking with State Representative Rick Scarbrough, who just come out of last week's meeting where they passed a voucher. He supported the public schools, didn't think it was necessary. That's a fair vote for Oak Ridge and Clinton and other areas. I think he represented us well. But people have to understand, public education is an institution since we were kids. You know, Mrs. McFadden in 6th grade, and she was there, and she taught Kenny Campbell, basketball analogies, Charlie Ergen, many others. And, you know, it's just history. There's one thing you could always count on is the public schools and other stuff, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, I think an expectation of a sufficient performance level is reasonable, and I think people have a right to do that. And I think public schools are getting beaten up a little bit because of the national theme and what the federal government's requiring. And I think basically we don't need woke agendas, other critical stuff. I think basically we in Tennessee and other places are scared we don't want that. It's not being taught in our public schools, but our public schools are being affected by that. But I think the average teacher's somewhat woke. I mean, and woke, I'll use woke neutrally, not negatively. I mean, just that they're on progressive outgoing agendas and different things. And I don't know. President Trump we had our first, that I've heard of, we had our first ICE pickup here in Oak Ridge a couple days last week, and I think you'll see more of that. And I actually have heard families are withdrawing children from schools.
Really?
Yeah, not in large numbers, 2 families here, 3 families there, and they're worried about their wives and kids, et cetera. So it's still a crime to be here illegally. And my whole point is, and I think Holman's on board, I think everybody they need to get after the criminals. I mean, you can go down and pick up every court docket in the country, and you'd be busy for 6 months.
That's right.
We need to get those people out. And, I talked to a person yesterday, and we can talk about that later if we talk a little crime, that the biggest increase in the schools has been Venezuelan families. And then I'm thinking, I can contribute something to that, and we may talk about that later, but they said they have had to take, K to 10,
right,
whatever, et cetera, so it seems to be moving in. But public education 100 years ago, you go back and look at all our presidents up until Lincoln or beyond, where did they go to college? Obviously Lincoln didn't. It's always an Ivy League school, or it's or another school. There was no Ohio State and Michigan. I mean, there probably was, but basically as we move on to the mid-1800s, late 1800s, people in the cities are starting to try to put a public education system together that encapsulates more than the rich people. So, I mean, the understanding that there's always been public schools, and that's been here since George Washington, is not true. Private schools were pretty much the educational source for the first 100 years of America. In the last 150, we've had a good public school system. I'm public schools, you're public schools. I went to St. Mary's for 5 or 6 years. I went to the public schools for most of my career. And, we're blessed in Oak Ridge, and I'm sure Quentin does a good job, too. Mm-hmm. It's really good stuff. But I think in the day of the flip phones, and we call this, I would call it a flip phone. Kids are going, what's he talking about? But in the days of cell phones and AI and everything, everybody's under judgment. I mean, it's every school has to represent itself. And I think the idea that all teachers do a great job, that's not true. But I had some great teachers. And my son went to Oak Ridge High School. I didn't have a negative experience the whole 4 years. They were good. And that's that says a lot for him. Like the principal, I have nothing to say but good things about Oak Ridge High School. But that doesn't mean that everybody has that positive experience, and we have a more diversified society. So I think that what I'm trying to get to is the challenges that the Department of Education and other people have in trying to get this all sorted out are really hard. I don't think it's an easy thing.
I think things become so polarizing, Alan. People, they take a position. It's about winning and losing. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, we have our neighbors arguing with each other. And I think it's, from the pro ESA position, I think people jumped on and they were really.
Define ESA.
The scholarship group, the pro voucher group. Okay. Or pro scholarship.
Yeah, we get down to acronyms, everybody escapes.
Oh, yeah. But they want to talk about how terrible public schools are. Public schools aren't terrible.
No, they're not.
They're not terrible. Somebody might have had a bad experience.
The smallest counties are where the problem is.
Yeah, and you might have a bad experience. But I've talked to some of our leaders here in the community and from different corners of the community, and some of the education folks, I think it's okay for us to try to be better, even if we have good schools. And the guy I work for, he's my vice president. He said, you don't have to be sick to get better,
That's right.
And so if we have an A school right now, a school that grades out really high, 2 things. Let's make sure they stay that way. But before we can do that, we have to know why they're that way to begin with. What variables are in place to make a good school, and what variables are in place that makes a school maybe not perform as well.
When you look at Oak Ridge, I think you measure it by the middle third. That's been my thing on that. You look at Oak Ridge, you see these 3 plants, you know who's coming in. The home environment's a contributing factor.
100%.
And we know they're going to make their kids stay. That's their nature, right? My whole thing is, I don't think people appreciate the challenge that teachers have with dysfunctional families in society.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad now, and it's not pointed at any family. Right. It's pointed at the whole economic institution. Everything. A lot of these kids' parents grew up with substance abuse problems or whatever, and they're trying to get them. And I know your good friend Sharon Gleason does a wonderful job at Glenwood of trying to help these kids learn reading and other things, other programs. There's just a big need. Give the public schools more money, but let's hire more help reading teachers, programs in 1st through 3rd grade. I mean, I'm not interested in 7% more salaries to attract people.
You touched on something about a dysfunctional household. If you have a dysfunctional household, maybe it's because of domestic abuse, maybe it's because of drug and alcohol presence in the home,
or maybe because mom has 3 jobs.
I mean, it really could be that way. I mean, you can, I've said it several times. You can take a bus full of A+ teachers and you put them in a school that has, just not the greatest environment. Okay,
right.
Maybe there's a lot of, true issues with home life and their poverty levels, whether it be educational issues of the parents or no jobs, or you put them in that school's going to struggle. If that school's going to struggle. You may have some success stories come out of that, but by and large, that school's going to struggle. I think we saw that initially. Maybe that's why the
success is determined by the overall averages and so it's hard to see the individual stories and what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that's the old song. Where you are depends a lot on where you started. Where you began, and that's the key. I mean. It's like I remember John Wooden said one time the best coaching job he ever did, the team ended up 13-10 in 1940s and 50s. He said he got a lot out of it. So, I mean, you got to know where you're starting. If you got Lucinda or Kareem, you're going to be,
from a performance standpoint, everybody wants to attain perfection, but in pursuit of perfection, you can get excellence. So, I think it's important. I think it's time to do some. It's not a bad time. I think first take a look at why our good schools are good and why those that maybe struggle, and let's work on both. Let's make sure we maintain our high performing schools and see what we can do for those that struggle. And it may not have to do with the school itself. It may be the community around it, and perhaps that's when we get other agencies to come in and kind of from a community task force approach.
Right. And I think it's they got to be fed and sheltered first, and not abused. And we know that's. So I think that you look at a system, and I'm doing this from business experience, but you look at a system, and you really got to kind of take off the lowest 15% performance and the highest 15. What's going on with the 70 in the middle? What do those scores look like? I know they're concerned about the extremes, and I get it. That was the way Oak Ridge always was.
Yeah.
If you weren't in need or incredible, if you were sitting there with Alan right there in the middle of the group, you were, it was a different deal. It was, there was no programs for you. You just came through the system.
Well, I think first of all, let's don't look at everything that's bad. Let's focus on the good, and let's make sure let's recognize the good. If we're going to focus on the bad, let's pay attention to the good as well. And we've got some good schools.
How much animosity between different members of the House? I know you're a positive-looking guy, but were there some people that were upset with other people with the way they voted or what they did?
I really didn't feel that at all. I think everybody understood it was a complex issue. It was tough for their community. I mean, like you said, was it 53-44, something like that?
Yeah, 53-45.
Yeah. So.
And one non-vote.
I thought, because we had multiple conversations would occur, amongst members, having lunch or dinner or just taking a break, and they would be on different sides of the issue, and I did not see anybody disrespect another for their position.
And I have had 3 or 4 really conservative clients who made it back or got there for the first time, and I'm talking conservative here. I'm talking, They follow the mantra. They know what they're doing. They don't believe in certain things, or they believe like they would be typical people that want library books changed. Sure. Just conservative people. None of them voted for it.
Right.
And you know why? Because they said it was a reckless bill. It spent too much money. It didn't go where it's right to. We need to stay home. Our constituents just want public schools, and we need to improve what we're doing in the public schools, not create alternatives and make it even worse. And that tells you something.
Yep.
That tells you something about the bill. That there's some stuff in that bill that I don't know how much money it's going to cost. But Tennessee saved a lot of money. But I don't know. I have no idea. Are there other issues within the educational system that are challenging right now? I mean, do we have other questions? I think that's paramount. I think that's the law of the land, is there. At the end of the day,
we have 900 some odd thousand public school students. This bill will address potentially 20,000 students in the next year.
Is that the cap, 22 or 20?
20,000. And then the following year, if 75% of the 75% of the scholarships were taken advantage of, they will add another 5,000 each year. But again, the scholarships have to be up to 75% of them have to be used.
What would cause me to be turned down? What's the economic levels? Can I make 150,000 and get one?
Yes, the first 10,000 are capped at 176 for a family of 4.
Okay.
So 176, they said 176 and below can apply for the first 10,000.
Okay. What about the next 10,000?
And there's no limit. There's no income cap on the next 10,000.
Wow. Because in the end, that's true. Now, see, the way I've always, my attitude about supporting vouchers is, rich people have had school choice forever. I say rich. I mean, upper middle class, we can always do that. We just got to say, okay, we make 167 and we take home 121. If we choose to spend of that 10, 12,000 a month or whatever we get, if we choose to spend $800 or $900 a month on our kids going to that school, then that's our choice.
That's right.
They always had that option. You got to sacrifice.
I mean, there's, I think Monty Fritz and I were talking, and Monty said, hey, we've always had school choice. Now it's just a matter of who's going to pay for it.
That's exactly right. With Saber's line, I don't see public dollars paying for private education. It doesn't make any sense to her.
And again, every representative had their own reasoning for what they wanted to do, and I'm not criticizing the other because their district's different than my district.
That's right.
And
your district may be, being in the business as long as I have, your district may be the most public school positive, formatted, no needs for change of any district in East Tennessee.
Yeah. Lucky to be here. Glad it's home. Yeah. We have a lot of exciting things. This morning we had a legislative breakfast in Knoxville, and man, it was fun to be over and bragging about Anderson County and everything we do over here well. Talking about all the exciting, things we've had happen in the last six months, all the announcements, and again, opportunities here are plentiful.
And growth in Roane County and West Anderson County has been so strong. We're landlocked a little bit on the east side, Lake City side and all that. But I think we saw a lot of growth in Andersonville for a long time.
I told a friend of mine the other day they've got some property in Roane County thinking about selling it. And I said, well, these folks that are going to move here have to live somewhere.
Yeah.
And that Oak Ridge corridor is going to be exciting the next few years.
Yeah, you make a good point. And I've been involved a little bit in working and doing polling and surveying and other things concerned. The whole apartment phase is a whole issue in the state. There is no political issue among residential people about overbuilding than not leaving room for single homes and building. You make more money building 200 apartment complexes.
Sure.
So I think there's a residential push. And just to be fair to the builders, that's stuff they provide too.
Sure.
But I think in the long run, I think there's a push to reduce that. So, single dwelling houses are becoming more and more valuable in that sense.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I can remember. You go back to, I know Mayor Beauchamp worked on it. Mayor Gooch has worked on it.
Tom was a big advocate.
Yeah, having adequate housing for those. I mean, we're talking what, 25% income or 25% population growth the next 5 to 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, here for sure.
Yeah, so
they're exiting the north fast.
What I told the group, we had 1,000 people at that legislative breakfast this morning, and what I challenged them all to do was make sure they understand when it comes to this area, we can help you. I mean, and I say we, I'm talking about you, me, vendors, contractors.
Sure.
This is the time for us to be really proud of what we can do here in this region and attract people here.
And East Tennessee has a distinct advantage over Middle and West, I think.
Oh, wow.
We got all kinds of, first of all, we got lakes, we got recreation, we got all kinds of things. We've got, then you couple that with land available, jobs available. We're pretty strong in the corridor.
And of course, as a police chief, I was on the international board of directors for I was on the board of directors for international.
We'll talk about crime here in a minute.
What I was going to say is, I've recruited people at East Tennessee. Those police chiefs, when they retire, they want to come here. No income tax, like you said, mountains, streams,
lakes.
I mean, great communities, low crime. They relocate here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And these lake developments and other things, especially I mean, I can visualize it. It overruns several counties, but I mean, Loudoun, Roane, Anderson.
Right now, in my current position as a director of the Law Enforcement Innovation Center for the University of Tennessee, it's a plug for them. Down the street here, we have 30 students here for the Forensic Academy, National Forensic Academy, from all over the country.
Yeah.
They love it here. They come from all over the country.
Well, let's be honest, my father was from Rhode Island. My mother was from Illinois and graduated high school in the late 30s, went to college, got their degrees. My dad got a chemical engineering degree, which was unique in those days. And so the Manhattan Project recruited him right out of graduate school, right? So they could get married, and after actually in between the two visits, he was here in 42 and 3 and came back in late 44 after getting married, and was at other places. But in the end, they weren't going back.
No.
I mean, they want seasons, but they don't need. And I've lived up north for 6 months a year at a time and 10 years in Pittsburgh, and it can get cold. Pittsburgh's not too bad, but it can get cold. It can get 10 degrees colder in here. I can remember February in 91 or 2, it never hit freezing in Pittsburgh, which was unusual for that.
Thank you.
But that's, here we get cold, but then we get a little bit of warmth, and we can live with it. Brad, take us to commercial. We'll be right back.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Over 14,000 neighbors live in fear of becoming sick or injured and having to make a choice between putting food on the table or seeking medical care. The free medical clinic tries to take that fear away.
Bringing the healthcare, primary care out to our rural communities. I've had patients tell me that if it wasn't for us, they wouldn't be able to have any kind of health care. So us being able to go into these areas and provide that on-site care to these patients that can also come back week to week if they need for follow-up primary care, it is life-changing. It means a world of difference between actually life and death for them.
Fan Gear Barn is Oak Ridge's source for new and vintage sports fan gear from around the world of sports. Find your favorite team gear at Fan Gear Barn, located at 977 Oak Ridge Turnpike, across from the hospital. Open 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6 days a week. Closed on Sundays.
Prescription drug misuse is a prevalent and potentially fatal problem. When people do not properly monitor, store, and dispose their medications, it can create an opportunity for misuse. Count it. Make it a goal to count your pills once every 2 weeks. Lock it. Secure your medications at home. Drop it. Drop off unused or expired medications for proper disposal at any police department in Anderson County. For more info, visit asapofanderson.org. Brought to you by ASAP of Anderson. Prevention works.
Feeling overwhelmed with your business finances? At P&L Business Services, we handle all your bookkeeping, payroll, and tax needs. From federal tax returns to QuickBooks training, we've got you covered. With over 25 years of experience, we provide customized packages to fit your business. Focus on what you love most, building your business. Let us take care of the rest. Call 865-294-4792. P&L Business Services, empowering you to grow your business.
Welcome back. We're here on Between the Lines talking with State Representative Rick Scarbrough. We spent a half an hour talking about vouchers and public schools. We're going to keep an eye on that and get some more information, get some numbers, and see what's going on. But I want to turn for the next 15 minutes to something that is in Rick's wheelhouse. We have watched immigration and ICE and other groups go out and start picking people up that are here illegally, focusing mainly on people that have committed crimes and need to be gone, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen the drama of the Colombia flights and the Brazilian flights, et cetera, but there is actually a website, ice.gov, I think it's got something else in that website, where you can actually see daily how many people are being deported. And I want to say they've averaged about 1,000 a day, guessing, but they're going after people and helping them. And we've talked with Rick before and others about the increasing crime problems on this show. And I know that the people attempting to come over the border at the last week is much reduced to what it was 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we're seeing. So Tom Holman's out. He's very popular. He has a great job to do. It's one of the few things that there's probably 70% of the people on both sides think needs to be done. Not agreeing in the methodology maybe, but that it has to be done. What do you know, and what's going on in Tennessee?
Well, we passed, this extraordinary session we just completed yesterday included in addition to the scholarship money, was our disaster relief up there and Upper East Tennessee, and also immigration, and we also passed a budget for all three projects. And just a quick note, we heard some very, very just heart-wrenching stories from our mayors from that Upper East Tennessee area about what they went through and what they're going through. About just, I mean, they had communities change forever. I'm talking about the disaster relief stuff.
Oh, we're on disaster.
Yeah, just real quickly. I mean,
that's good. We need to talk
talking about just how fortunate we are here to not really experience a lot of terrible weather extremes like that. But they had, we got people that are having to pay a mortgage payment on a house that's not even there. Mm-hmm. It's gone. I mean, you can't even tell a house was there. Foundation, everything's gone. We passed a law to relieve them of their property taxes for this year on that particular house. Trying to help them there. I think it's in the form of a grant, but that's a very, very small thing. But we were able to send millions of dollars up there in relief, and that's not going to be enough. I mean, that those communities are changed forever. Changed forever. I mean. Next time you drive down the street, look in any direction and imagine what it would look if that was gone. Whatever's there is just gone. And so those mayors got there and just they woke up one morning and it was raining, right?
Yeah. Tell me how that progressed, how the disaster happened. There was no 40-foot floods, or it was just rising waters, right?
It just kept coming. Yeah. And it came off that mountain, those mountains up there, and it never quit. I mean, you see,
I used to go up to New River, there'd be little trickles coming down. Then it'd rain for 3 days, and there'd be like floods coming off the mountain into the ghetto. So I understand a little bit about what you're talking about.
Well, also, I mean, think about when you go up to Townsend, with your family, just take a little drive, and hadn't rained in 3 days. But man, it rained the whole week before, and that river is just because it takes a while for that to wash down. And again, these people said we woke up and it was raining, and it didn't really register to them. And I think we all saw videos on social media where people just looking at the back window of their house or off the deck of their home, looking at the river and making comments about, well, it looks like it's getting high,
Saber and I went to Gatlinburg. I'm trying to remember the day. I want to say right around Christmas time or right after.
Uh-huh.
And you sit on your decks up there and you look out in the little stream in Gatlinburg back there by the corner, come out. And overnight that thing was roaring and it was pretty high.
We've seen it pretty high up there as well. But take that and magnify it by countless
It's up on the streets.
And they're talking about rivers that had risen 40-something feet. Coming through. And that's why the bridges got washed out. But FEMA, Tennessee Emergency Management Association, and TDOT, our transportation group in the state, they've done some Herculean events up there to take care of those people. They both presented this week to us during the hurricane relief, talked about why the money was needed, where it'd be utilized, and it's unfortunate that all that was tied into the final budget, but we voted on each one separately.
I know, that's right. The appropriations bill was shared, but the actual legislation was in.
And even though I voted no on the school scholarship issue, I voted yes on the total budget.
Sure.
You do that, it's just like at the end of the session when you're trying to close session out and you vote on the entire budget.
Sir, and then some handler comes back and says you appropriated money for vouchers. Yeah, that's how it works sometimes. But you really only
you just vote on the budget. Yeah. And but now on the immigration piece, I've gotten a lot of calls on that, and I got to do some research and return some calls and give them some answers because it was pretty complicated, and it was put in that surprised all of us. Really, when we got
what was the purpose of including that in the special session?
I don't know. I think it was probably trying to get in line with and cooperate with the president's agenda, and it was very last minute thing. When the proclamation came out for the extraordinary session, we all went, "Wow, what's this?" Right?
Yeah.
And then we started getting some information about it. I think leadership, really had to work hard to get it out there to include that.
Who in state government would work with ICE? Like in New York, they may try not to work with them. But in Tennessee, you're going to work.
Part of that bill created basically enough funds to create probably for 3 or 4 individuals to be part of a liaison group that will work between the federal government and the state government. and have that coordination intact. Because I don't care what the organization, you got to have great communication. And this group,
Who would have the authority? Would there be a
Department of Safety?
Okay.
Department of Safety. The Department of Safety. And I'll give the governor's team. They did send staff around to each representative's office to explain the immigration bill and as best they could, obviously, and then we might send questions back to them, but they do come by and visit with you, make sure you understand, and give you opportunity to ask questions.
Let's walk through it. They picked up a family, 7 or 8 illegals in Oak Ridge the other day. I mean,
I didn't know that.
We won't go into details, but it was a local bus, drug enforcement, but they weren't legal. ICE comes in, they have an ICE agent, they do it. What happens is they're going to be deported. Help the public understand what happens. When you pick them up, where do they go from their house?
Well, if I guess, if it depends. If it's a federal group that's taking them, they're going to take them to a detention facility.
Memphis?
No, they have contract work, I think, locally. Blount County takes care of some federal inmates over there. And what folks we're talking about, they're picking up
What is the crime?
That are criminals.
Illegal entry in the United States? Is that a federal crime?
I don't know exactly how it's worded. But they're not trying to go around and pick up folks that we see everyday life. We're talking about this is, for better sake.
The problem is, if they're there with their wife and kids, everybody's going.
Yeah, and so let me get some more information and bring that back to you, because, again, those are great questions.
How many ICE detention centers in the country? Guessing. Would you say there's
Couldn't
one?
even guess. I just know back from my active law enforcement days, the group we worked with typically would come out of Memphis, and it was hard to get hold of them. It was really hard. That's one thing I think we're going to see differently. I said I think there'll be a lot more mainstream moving forward to where we'll have a lot more interaction with them.
Yeah, people got to remember it's only been a week and a half.
Yeah, I think you're going to see some now. They'll be parked over here with our federal authorities over here in Knoxville, DEA and FBI, and the Joint Terrorism Task Forces. They'll work on that. And let's face it, if they're criminals and they're here, if they're criminals here illegally, they got to go back. We don't want them here, and we do not want them here. And unfortunately, if there's a few, there's many. And that's just who we've identified so far. I know a couple.
But do we have a strategy? We talked about the Venezuelan, the emergence of Venezuela. It's public news.
Yeah.
That they're in all 4 big urban cities in the state, and you've battled, other people battled. Do we have a strategy for getting after the most dangerous criminals first? Well,
I mean, Director Rouse, TBI, pointed that out, that he felt like they had a presence here in Tennessee.
That's right.
And it was just intel. They have intel. But there was some pushback initially by local law enforcement about did they really have a problem, because they haven't really been seeing crime from the Venezuelan gangs. All Director Rouse said, hey, they're here. Okay, and I think it was only a few days later they had an incident occur, and that's the thing. I think it's important, and I really do feel like our local folks will get prepared for that and be ready for it. And it's going to take coordination between the federal authorities and our local law enforcement.
How organized? We know that we read about the cartels being organized. How organized are these people across these cities and gangs? Well, I
tell you, when it comes to the Venezuelan group, they're extremely violent, and I don't think there's much coordination at all. And that's the thing. There's not a lot of coordination. They just want to take over everything. And they don't care. But
if you're part of that group in Knoxville, do you know the guy in Atlanta or the guy over here? Is there any coordination?
There's communication for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
They're not just all independently 3 or 4 of them deciding, hey, let's do this.
No, they're networked. I mean, they're networked.
It'll be hard to organize.
We always, and again, it could be from loosely organized to extremely organized. I mean, it just depends on a certain level.
What kind of crime are they noted? I mean, do we look for?
Drugs are always going to be present.
Yeah.
Violence is always going to be present. They're not going to. They don't. They're not negotiating. They're coming in, cleaning the house. They're taking over.
From other people.
Yeah,
from
other gang people. They could be South American gangs. It could be some of our domestic folks. But it's a real issue.
Sort of like the Russians did in the Northeast 30 years ago. Remember, they just came in and they just hammered everybody.
One thing I think we can do, if we can talk about this for a second, is when you see it in other communities, understand we've got a problem too, because we don't want it here.
Right.
And you're saying, well, it's not really a problem here. I had a question come up during campaign season. They said, what is your number one concern in the state of Tennessee? And I said, immigration. and I could have pivoted. I could have deflected. I could have said one of many things. But I truly, that scares me. We have families that are running around. We have stable communities in our state that would be targeted by these type of Venezuelan gangs, illegal immigrants, if you will, and they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
Aren't they coached or trained not to involve themselves in the law-abiding part of the community and just to deal with?
Well, they won't. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you're going to. Yeah, I mean, that's why I said if you've got a few, you got many, because they're going to be renting properties. They're going to be, and you think there's only a couple people living. There's a lot of people living there. Yeah. They're not going to call their landlord when they have a leaky faucet. They want to be out of sight, out of mind. They don't want to bring any attention to themselves.
But they're not going to go to Turkey Creek and harass people. No. They're not going to go there because that would make them very visible.
Not likely, not unless they had a conflict with somebody there, and they were probably there just to. They were probably there on, was running an errand for family. And they had conflict. That's not going to be their intent. Their intent's going to be to try to take over a certain area. They're going to try to create a criminal enterprise in a certain area.
So if you're not part of that enterprise somehow, buying drugs, doing different things, they're going to be invisible to you.
It depends. Everybody has to have a place to live.
That's right.
And that's what you saw, I think it was in Colorado, and when they took over an entire apartment complex, and again, they're not coming in just taking over one. It's just they move in, some more move in, and pretty soon people start moving out. They don't want to be living there with.
Sure.
They see that stuff going on.
Interesting.
It's just, again, understand it is a criminal enterprise, and these are criminals at a whole different level of violence. They will not hesitate to hurt people. And again, for the most of us, we're not going to be in that area. That's going to be an issue. But again, they bite off a little bit at a time and grow.
Is ages young?
The most violent?
Oh, I made sure 19 or 20, yeah.
Oh, the most gang members, the most violent gang is 14, 16, up to about 24, 20. Those young ones are extremely violent, but in years past, gang members would recruit younger people because they knew if they got arrested, they would be sent to a juvenile detention facility and they'd get out when they're 18. And they would be just as violent as some of the adults, right?
Right.
So the immigration piece, I know it's frustrating. I know people are concerned about it. They're really not. I don't think that the target and the intent is to go out and harass people that are here illegally. It's not about that. It's for those that are here illegally. We expend thousands and thousands of dollars providing services to people here that are illegally.
Oh yeah, we did a show on that. Yeah. How about the money on? How many? Are you going? Is the federal government home and everybody? Are you going to have more money to do all of this? Are we going to? Is the federal government taking an active role in raising that money up?
When I come back, let's do a show just basically on this new immigration policy, and I'll bring back the numbers that we're talking about, statewide and on how the federal impact will be. And I bet you there's going to be some new developments coming out of Washington by then.
I probably could even prepare for the show. Right?
But I think it's interesting because we do have some new figures available that went along with the immigration policy. I'd hate to make up the numbers.
I understand,
but they would really surprise people about how many people are here illegally. It's way in the thousands. They're here illegally, and we're providing services
thousands
for them.
For
illegal.
What area?
Illegal folks all across the state.
You think it's okay? But okay.
And we're providing taxpayer services for them. Health care, education, it's crazy. So I
think that'll be reduced. If they don't have documentation, is going to increase.
There's going to be some bills that I know that are the intents to be drafted to where they're going to have to start showing some proof of citizenship to when they take their kids to our schools.
Yeah,
and there'll be some debate there.
I agree. One more break, Brad, and then we'll finish up with 8 or 10 minutes.
Feeling overwhelmed with your business finances? At P&L Business Services, we handle all your bookkeeping, payroll, and tax needs. From federal tax returns to QuickBooks training, we've got you covered. With over 25 years of experience, we provide customized packages to fit your business. Focus on what you love most, building your business. Let us take care of the rest. Call 865-294-4792. P&L Business Services, empowering you to grow your business.
In our community, everyone deserves access to quality health care. At the Free Medical Clinic, we offer no-charge medical services to those without insurance. There is never a bill at the Free Medical Clinic. From primary care, preventative care, diagnostics, and specialty care, our dedicated team is here to help. The Free Medical Clinic, taking your fear away from becoming sick or hurt. Go to fmcor.org to become a patient. Remember, there is never a charge for your care. fmcor.org.
Fan Gear Barn is Oak Ridge's source for new and vintage sports fan gear from around the world of sports. Find your favorite team gear at Fan Gear Barn, located at 977 Oak Ridge Turnpike, across from the hospital. Open 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6 days a week. Closed on Sundays.
Prescription drug misuse is a prevalent and potentially fatal problem. When people do not properly monitor, store, and dispose their medications, it can create an opportunity for misuse. Count it. Make it a goal to count your pills once every 2 weeks. Like it. Secure your medications at home. Drop it. Drop off unused or expired medications for proper disposal at any police department in Anderson County. For more info, visit asapofanderson.org. Brought to you by ASAP of Anderson. Prevention works.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Well, the Elon Musk of BBB Communications Chandler has told us 7.5 minutes left in the show. So we are moving that direction. So we're done with the special session. We now have 12, 14 weeks to get some more stuff done. What's on the agenda?
We go back to work on the actual session gets back to on Monday. Committees will start working together for the first time. I'm on Judiciary.
Judiciary is a good committee. A lot of people don't like it.
And I'm on this. My subcommittee out of that is on the criminal justice side, so that's a good fit for me.
Yeah.
And then my other committee is insurance with a subcommittee in insurance. That'll be a different animal for me. But there's nothing to be said. They could actually still move somebody. They may move me to a different committee, or add a committee.
Yeah,
probably want to. They did some changes the other day.
They're getting organized.
Trying to get settled. It's interesting to go back and forth from the session to the extraordinary session and then back again. You have to realize it's almost like that extraordinary session is just another session. You know, they just stop the clock. They stop the clock. They stop the clock and plug you in.
You go back like you've been. It's kind of been a weekend, but it's been a week.
Yeah, the Senate's going to be out an additional week. There was a timing. Didn't know how long this was going to take. So the Senate won't come back until the 10th. We'll go back on Monday.
So why are they going? Why did the Senate just going home? They stay home for a week, or whatever they do. They get things done a little quicker. So less people to debate with.
It's true.
I mean, that's just the way it's always been, et cetera. So, how many new members?
In the House, we have 2 Democrats and 7 Republicans.
That's
members.
That's a lot. I can remember when I was involved with Dennis Ferguson's campaign back in the 90s. He was the only one to beat an incumbent. So, it's hard.
We have 5 East Tennessee Republicans. We have 2 Middle Tennessee Republicans, 1 Democrat in Middle Tennessee, and 1 Democrat from the Memphis area that are all new. 9 total new people.
Who's the leader of the Democratic group? Gloria's back, right, from Knoxville. Gloria Johnson came back. Okay.
Yeah, but Johnny Clemens, I think, is the majority leader.
Okay. And he's 24 or 5 people.
He's from Nashville. There's 24 of them total.
Okay.
24 Democrats and 75 Republicans.
I got you. Okay. And so go down that leadership for us real quick. We got Speaker of the House is Cameron Sexton.
That's correct.
Who's the majority leader?
William Lamberth.
Lambert, that's right. And then we have one more, a whip, maybe?
You got Johnny Garrett's a whip, and you have Jeremy Faison is the chair of the caucus.
Okay.
And then you got Deputy Speaker this year has been named Jason Zachary out of West Knoxville. Speaker Pro Tem is Pat Marsh from Shelbyville. And then you got Mark Cochran is I think he's the deputy leader.
Mark's
from Rutherford County.
Yeah, I remember Mark. Yeah,
Rutherford County. You guys, and you also have some parliamentarian type leaders, floor leaders, secretaries, stuff like that.
We have a new Governor Lee is in his next to last session. He'll have another session, 26, and then he's term limited out. We have a governor's race that will be more than interesting. It's going off the charts interesting. You've got you have an announced John Rose, right? Is it John?
Is he announced?
Okay. The congressman's out.
Well intended.
I think he's been out. I think he's out. I know the mayor Knoxville got out and come in anticipation, what I've heard, in anticipation of Marsha Blackburn changing and running for governor. We don't know until they put their.
He said Rose is announced or he's out.
I'm in the cycles where he's soliciting support.
So yeah, I think he's in.
Yeah, he's in. I think Marsha's getting ready.
Yeah.
And most people in the thing think Marsha's going to move. And we still have some other names out there. I mean, Bill Hagerty's still considering it.
Yeah.
And so are some others. And
don't we use the word posturing?
Whatever. Not with Bill Hagerty. I'm a good friend and a huge supporter of Bill Hagerty's. But whatever he does, he'll do well, whether it's senator or governor or whatever he chooses to do, et cetera. So, and I think Marsha has the benefits of having just run 2 years of campaigning, so her name ID's through the roof. And she's well liked by conservatives. She is well liked by conservatives. She'll be a formidable force. I just think maybe the breadth of everything, maybe the point that Bill Hagerty is able to bring in more people into that.
If you just had interest in politics, you'd have something to do during this.
Yeah, that's right. That's me. That's me. That's right. I don't know. So, okay. So we've got everybody's. Your daughter have her baby?
Yes. Okay. The little man's a month old.
I'm behind.
Yeah.
Because last time you were running down there because she was uncomfortable.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I remember you were a good dad.
We're busy. And but no, it's all good. We're good. And family's blessed. I'm blessed.
Austin P football not so much.
Yeah, they're doing good. They're doing good.
He's got
some great transfers.
I said his son-in-law, our good friend John Ferris and Quentin's son, is the coach.
Yeah, he's got some transfers coming in. Got a Mississippi State quarterback.
Wow.
Yeah, got some. Yeah, which allows you to talk some wide receivers.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
They're doing well. Everything's good. We're blessed. Very happy. People ask me, is the house like you expected? I said, oh, absolutely. I said, it's exciting and disappointing all at the same time.
It's exactly right.
Or not the house, but Nashville in a whole. A lot of great people down there.
Great city, though. Great city.
A lot of people down there. I will tell you, my colleagues I've been blessed. A lot of folks, they take us all under their wing and make sure. Everybody's been great.
It is good. You got a lot of different people doing a lot of different things, and with the national changes, it's going to be interesting. Not probably as interesting as other states where you don't have so much uniformity for Trump. I mean, President Trump has, probably 70% of the people there support him. Whereas in Ohio and some of the border states, and you have different things, and I guess those legislatures are having to work through things.
I think if you look at the votes and how things went out this week during the extraordinary session, on the main topical areas, you were kind of split on the school choice bill. Everything else pretty much party line. The thing that was really, really cool is I was on the disaster relief committee during the special session.
That's a good committee.
All right. It's 20-0. Democrats, Republicans came together, made sure everybody, our neighbors, get the money to take care of them. 20-0.
That's good.
There was a little bit of talk and frustration. How come it took us so long? I think it's because we were out of session, and that hurt us a little bit. Some things they put in the bill this time, though, was some extra disaster relief money that the governor can use at his discretion. A lot of people didn't like it, but at the same time, now we got some money there. If something were to happen again, there's going to be some more seed money there to help people.
30 seconds. The nuclear money, $50 million last year. We still state funding some nuclear support here in the Valley.
I think what'll happen. I'm interested here what the governor's budget's going to be. The state of the address, which I think is coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
because I think he'll announce some budget agendas there.
We're getting a countdown. You hear that? Yeah. Chandler's multi-talented. Folks, we really appreciate it. Anything we can do between the lines, we're going to keep bringing you the news. We got Mayor Gooch coming up. Next week we got some other people. We're going to get into some nonprofits too.